Namaste everyone and welcome back to our channel. So today we are back with another exciting project on DevOps where we are going to deploy a Netflix clone application on an EKS cluster. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So before actually implementing the project, let us first try to understand which tools we are going to implement and also how would be the flow. So basically we are going to store the Netflix application on the GitHub. Okay, from there Jenkins is going to pull the code and perform certain steps on it before actually pushing it to the Docker hub. So what is going to happen is the code is going to be pulled onto the Jenkins. Then we are going to perform certain tests with the help of the security tools. Now the security tools that we have used is SonarQube, dependency check, as well as Trivi. So SonarQube is a static code analysis tool which detects and helps fix issues in your code. Okay, so it also has one feature known as quality gate that allows the code only if it meets certain quality standard. Okay, so this is all about SonarQube. Then we have got OWASP dependency check. Now what is it going to do is it will be checking for the vulnerabilities within the dependencies. Okay, so whatever vulnerabilities we were checking in case of SonarQube were only for the code and not for the dependencies, whereas in case of OApps, what it is going to do is it is going to check for the dependencies and it will detect vulnerabilities if there are any. Okay, now similarly we have got Trivi, which is again going to check for the vulnerabilities. Okay, and once these tests are completed, then we are ready to create a Docker image. So we are going to create a Docker image. Okay, and then again this Docker image will be checked for vulnerability with the help of Trivi. So once the test is successful, this Docker image will be pushed onto the Docker hub, which is a public repository. In organizations, they use private repositories most probably, and they avoid using public repositories for the security reasons, but for the development of this particular project, which is just a sample, we are going to make use of Docker Hub repository. Now this was all about integration, that is continuous integration, that is CI part. Whereas for the CD part, we are going to make use of ArgoCD. Now, the image which we have deployed will be present within the manifest files. If you know Kubernetes, you must be knowing that within the pod there runs a container, right? And this container is made up of the image that is mentioned within the manifest files. Now these manifest files will be stored in this particular GitHub account. Okay, and this ArgoCD is going to check for this repository continuously. If there is any change in this particular repository, it will pull it and then consequently deploy it onto the Kubernetes cluster. Now the deployment will happen in this way, and then if we want to monitor this, we are going to make use of Prometheus as well as Grafana. So basically this is the symbol of Grafana. So what will happen is the metrics from Kubernetes will be pulled by the Prometheus, and those will be then transferred to Grafana, which will help us visually see the metrics or the amount of CPU used or many other such metrics will be visible on Grafana. Grafana is basically used for the visualization purpose, right? So in this way the things are going to be happening in our project. But before actually implementing, again we are going to first locally execute a Docker image and see how is it going to run locally. Once we understand that, we will then know what all things are required for the Docker image to be created, and then we will implement the Jenkins pipeline. Okay, so let's go and first go to the AWS console. Now over here I'm just going to launch a t2.micro instance, my server. Okay, the rest of the things as it is. Within the instance type, I would be considering t2.medium, then the type is of Linux, then the existing group I will be considering EC2SG. I will show you the security group also. Okay, now let us wait for it to come into the running stage. Okay, it's running but still initializing. Now over here, let's go to the security section. So all of these ports are open over here, okay, which are 3000, 22 for SSH, 80 for, I haven't considered like what is it used for, but for time being I have just opened all of these ports. You can just make use of 2 as of now, that is 22 as well as 3000. It would be enough. Okay, now let's try to connect it. Okay, so now we can just use it. Right now, for the Docker run, we will have to have two things, right? We will have to first clone the repository here and then build Docker image, right? So for that, I am going to install Git as well as Docker. Let's first try to update it. Sudo yum update -y. It is already updated. Fine. Now let's go over here and search for Docker installation on AWS Amazon Linux. Now this is for the Linux part. Okay, I have already updated the system. Now the first thing I'll do is execute this. Okay, sorry, it is, I'm using Amazon Linux 2023 and not Linux 2, so that's why it gave this error. I can just copy this. Okay, then after this we have to start the service of Docker. Okay, let me try to paste it. Okay, cool. Then I can just add this user to, I will be just adding Docker to this particular user. So I can now do Docker ps. Okay, there is a permission denied, so for that what we have to do, sudo chmod 777 var run docker.sock. Okay, so we have to do this. And now if I go and search Docker ps, it is going to give me the required output. Fine, so Docker is installed. Okay, now we also need to install Git. So sudo yum install git -y, enter. Fine. Now once this is done, let's go over here to clone this repository. So I would also like to give a shout out to Ayushi Gupta, who has written this code. Okay, git clone paste. Now this code is available. Now that this is done, we are now ready to create a Docker image out of it. But before actually moving forward, there is something that we need to understand. Now within this code, if I go to pages, I have this thing called API, and within this we require this particular key, that is TMDB key. Now what does this TMDB stand for? So basically TMDB in the sense the movie database. So we are going to make use of this to access the content from this particular platform, that is TMDB, which helps us with the API key integration, and thus we will be able to view the movies accordingly. Okay, like the latest ones, the more popular ones, etc, etc. So whatever data will be required to display on the screen, that will be coming from this particular TMDB platform. So for that we require this TMDB in the environment, right? So it is nothing but the environment variable that we need. So for that, what we'll have to do is we have to go to this particular platform. You can just search for the movie database, or you can also just go for TMDB. Okay, if you go, you will see the first search bar, whatever it is. You have to just select it, you have to log in it, and then just go over here in the profile section and settings, and within this you have the API section. So from here you will be able to get the API key. There is certain steps that you will have to consider for creating this key, but yeah, but eventually you will be getting this, right? Okay, so I will be just copying it out and pasting somewhere so that I would be requiring it, right? Just open this one. Okay, we create a new tab and just add in here. Okay, so this is my TMDB key. So this is one thing that is required, and the other thing is the node options that we are going to require. So we have to define node options over here, and the node options here need to be open SSL -legacy -provider. So basically this thing is also required to be present in the environment for the application to be running. Okay, so these two things are required. So what we are going to do is, let us first go and try to write a Docker file. So let us try to create vi docker file, insert, and in this, see, this is a node application that requires 18 version. The node version should be 18, and now we are going to code it accordingly. So from node :18.0.0-alpine. So alpine is a small image, so that's why we have considered it. Okay, now we are going to create a folder or directory. Okay, and after this we are going to consider a working directory. This is my working directory now, that is user src app. Okay, now this is the place where we are going to execute different commands. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are copying whatever it is there in this particular current folder onto the working directory. Okay, then we are going to set the environment. So node options over here, right, which is --open SSL -legacy -provider. Okay, then I would be considering an argument. So in order to provide this key to my Docker image, what I am going to do is I am just going to ask for an argument, that is API key. So this API key will be added in our TMDB key. Okay, API underscore key. Fine. Now what we will be doing is we will be running npm install. Then after that run npm run build. Now with this we will be able to build our project and then expose it to this particular port, that is 3000, and the CMD would be npm start. I'm really sorry, I think I used the curly brace over here, which should not be used. Yeah, fine. Now our Docker file is completely ready for its build. Okay. Now we can see Docker file over here. Now we also have Docker installed, right? Now what I can do is I can just do docker build --build -arg. Now what is my argument? My argument is API key, and I need to pass this particular key over there. Okay, let me paste it. Fine, and the tag would be Netflix, and please build for the current directory. Now this is building a Docker image for us. It may take some time. So whatever it is running, you can see that each one has got a layer. Everything that we have mentioned within the Docker file is a layer. Okay, so this is the second, this one is the third. So all those commands that we have written form a layer. So most of us within the interview they have asked like what are layers of a Docker file. So you can simply say that these are the statements or the instructions that we have written within the Docker file. That's all. Okay, now we can see that our image is created. Let us try to find Docker image. Okay, I think it's images. Yeah, so you can see that Netflix with the tag latest has been created. Now let's try to run this. Okay, we are trying to run it locally so that it should not give us any problem when we are actually writing it in the Jenkins file, right? So let us consider this to be 3000 and the name is Netflix, right? So we are trying to run this, and now if I go to my public address and just try to access it on port 3000, I will be able to view something. You can see that this is what I am able to view, and when I sign in I can see the dashboard for the Netflix application. So you can see that horror movies and all such categorization, so everything on this comes from the TMDB. Okay, that's fine. So now we are ready, we are more confident with our Docker file, right? Now this Docker file can be used. Just go to the repositories, Netflix, and in here I can just create new file. Let us go to Docker file, vi Docker file. Let us copy the content, copy and paste it over here, add it to be Docker file. Okay, and commit these changes. Now over here we are with the code which is ready for our Jenkins pipeline. Now that we are ready with this particular code, we can now proceed further for the implementation of project. Okay, so the foremost thing that we need to do is to launch a server and install Jenkins, then SonarQube, Trivy as well as Docker on it. Okay, so for that we are going to make use of Terraform, and we have written the Terraform scripts here in this particular folder. Okay, so what have we done in this particular case is we have created an EC2 instance and we have passed the Terraform the user data through this particular, you can see that we have passed user data over here, which is pointing to this particular file of user data.sh, which is over here. Now in this we have installed Git, then we have installed Jenkins, Docker as well as Trivy along with the SonarQube. So in this we are not going to create or directly install SonarQube on the system. What we are going to do is we are going to just run the Docker image of Sonar in this. Okay, and since there are respective ports of each of those tools, we have also made use of the security groups. We have separately created them, and you can see for the Jenkins port we have 8080 and for the SonarQube port we have got 9000. Okay, for SSH we have got 22, and these are just for the namesake I have created. In future if they might be required, then we'll have them. Okay, so this is what we have done over here. Now what we are going to do is we are going to just clone this particular repository, okay, onto my project section. Just open git bash here and do git clone paste. So the clone has been completed and we can see the folder over here. let's move on to this particular folder. Okay, and with this we are as of now concerned with this particular directory. So these directories we are going to use, but later, not now. Okay, so let's move into this particular folder, enter. Okay, do we have Terraform installed? I need to check. Okay, just a second. No, so I will have to install Terraform on this machine. Just give me a second. For Windows, we have this AMD 64. I would be just downloading this. Okay, then we have this in the download section. We need to unzip this, so extract all, extract. Okay, so this is extracted and it's visible over here. Okay, so this is the terraform.exe. Just copy the path. Okay, go to the environment variables, path, edit. I can add this path. Okay, 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 okay. Now I will have to close this particular git bash. Go to my documents, go to the projects, go in this particular folder. Let me just do git bash. Okay, now if I do Terraform, it should be giving me different options. Okay, now what I have done in this is, let me open my code in the Visual Studio Code for better understanding. So basically in the provider we have mentioned it as US East 1, and this is our main.tf. Okay, I have explained it already, but just for the sake of understanding, like how I have written, I have used these variables for and provided the values over here. Now I will have to check the VPC IDs first before actually implementing. Okay, so let me go to VPC, and you will also, if you clone this particular repo, you will have to add the VPC IDs present on your machine or your account. Okay, you can't simply copy whatever I have used. Okay, so this is the VPC ID that we have. Okay, let's go over here and paste it out. Then there is T2 large, then we have other thing that is of subnet. So there are multiple subnets over here. We can use any one of them. Okay, yeah, I can use this one and just copy the subnet ID from here and just paste it over here. And for the key pair, I have got Linux key pair, and this AMI is something that I need to modify. Okay, instances, we can see the AMI ID over here. Okay, now I can just paste it over here, Control S. This is done. Now the user data I already explained, so these are the VPCs. I don't think that there must be any problem with this. Okay, so let's try to create it with the help of Terraform. Terraform init. since we are implementing it for the first time, it is going to take time to download everything related to backend, then modules as well as plugins. So it might take some time over here. Okay, fine. Now after this, we would be running Terraform format command, then Terraform validate to check whether everything is fine, and we can go for Terraform plan post this. Yeah, fine. Let's go to Terraform plan. Okay, 9 things to be added. Terraform apply -- auto approve. Okay, so now it is going to create the required server and then install everything that is mentioned in the user data. It may take a couple of minutes. Okay, so the creation has been completed. Now let's try to refresh, and we can see that Netflix server has been created and it's in the initializing stage. So let's wait for it to be 2x2 checks passed. Yes, now it is 2x2 checks passed, and now we can access our Jenkins through this. So let's try. Yes, and on the same server we would also have SonarQube running at port 9000. Great. Now first we will have to connect to this particular instance of ours which we have created recently and get the password, the initial password of the Jenkins. We can also get it on this particular path, and we can also get this when we do sudo systemctl status Jenkins. And over here you can see the initial password over here. Okay, just copy it and you can paste it here directly. Continue. Install the suggested plugins. Okay, so let me just give it as admin password. Okay, just random email ID and save and finish. Now that we have done with the process of installation, we can see the Jenkins dashboard. Okay, now let's go over here. Over here I have written all the steps that we need to perform. So before moving forward, just check whether we have got other things installed as well. Jenkins is installed, we checked. SonarQube is running, we checked. Now let's try to check for Trivy. Yes, so Trivy is also installed, and let us check for Docker as well. And yes, Docker is also running. Of course, without Docker this image would not be running, right? So yeah, Docker is also there, Trivy is also there, SonarQube is installed, and Jenkins is also there. Fine. Now the next thing that we need to do is access Jenkins and install the required plugins. So these are the plugins that we would be requiring. So what you need to do is just go to manage Jenkins in the Jenkins dashboard. Okay, over here we have got the plugins options, and we can go into the available plugins and just search for OWASP dependency check. Then we have Sonar Cube Scanner. Keep everything installed related to SonarQube also. And then we have Eclipse Temurin installer and Node.js. Yeah, we can just install with this as of now. Also we require Docker as well, right? Docker is required. Let me check. Docker Commons, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, as well as Docker build step. Okay, Docker Pipeline, Docker API, Docker build step. So we are going to install all of these. Few of these are pending. Okay, done. Now we can just go back to the top page. Fine. Now all the required plugins have been installed. Now first thing that we need to do is set up SonarQube. So before writing a Jenkins file, we will have to set up SonarQube. So for login, by default the password is admin. Okay, just log in. And now we'll have to kind of create a new password. So old password, new password, update. So now we are here, okay, on the SonarQube. Now what we need to do is we first need to create the token, and for creating it we just have to go to administration, security, users, and over here you can just name it as Netflix generate, and you would have this particular token created. For now I will just paste it over here. Okay, and then after that add this token as credential in Jenkins. Okay, so let's go to manage Jenkins. Within this we have credentials section. Okay, so why are we doing this? We are doing this so that the SonarQube will be able to integrate with Jenkins, and it might require credentials for the token to authenticate, and for that purpose we are going to add these credentials. Okay, so let's name it as Sonar, and the password is the secret itself. It should not be username with password, it should be a secret text. Okay, just paste it out here. The ID is Sonar and the description is also Sonar. Fine. Okay, create. So our credential with Sonar name has been created. Now once that is done, we have to go to manage Jenkins. Okay, manage Jenkins. We have got system. So now we have got SonarQube servers over here. So I will click on add SonarQube, name it as Sonar server. Okay, and this is the URL of SonarQube, so I will be just using this, right? Okay, and this one is the credential, and save. Okay, this has been done. Now the next step is to go to Jenkins, manage Jenkins tools, and to the SonarQube scanner installations. Let's go over there then. Manage Jenkins tools. Right, Sonar scanner installations. In here we would be installing Sonar scanner. Okay, so we would be installing it like that. Now we also have got dependency check, so we can also add the dependency check over here as dp -check. Okay, an installation directory, install automatically, add installer, github.com, and in this is done. Also we will have to install Docker. Okay, just name it as Docker, install automatically from docker.com, and the latest one, save. Okay, we have done the setup. Now we have also done the same thing for Docker, but we also need to add credentials as well. See, we are going to deploy our image onto the Docker hub, right? So for that we need to have credentials of Docker. So in order to add them, just go to the credentials. Okay, add credentials with user and password, or with user and password. Surname would be, let me name it as Kauri S17, and the password has to be, okay, so Docker -cred, Docker -cred. Let me confirm once. Okay, I will try to log in to this Docker hub. Let me sign in to this. My username is yes, so this one is the right password. You have to create your own account on Docker hub. Okay, and then you will be able to log in. Okay, that's fine. Now we have also one more credential over here. Just click on create. Okay, so these two are ready. So now that we are done with the setup of these tools for Jenkins, we are now ready to perform the Jenkins pipeline. So before that, we would have to define the Jenkins file or the configuration file. So basically we have written this code already, so let us try to understand it one by one. So basically the pipeline is what we define whenever we want to create a pipeline. Then within that we have defined agent as any. Now whenever you have more than one options, like in case of master slave architecture, there are multiple nodes which can be used as an agent for the pipeline to execute. But in our case we have only one server, Jenkins server, and we are going to execute it there itself. So that's why we have just defined agent any. The next thing is environment variables. Now within this we have defined the scanner underscore home, where we are passing the tool sonar scanner. Now this sonar scanner is something that we have defined in here, right? And this is something that we have installed from Maven Central. So this is what we are referring over here. Now we define the stages. Now within stages we have the first stage, that is clean workspace. In this we have implemented a function which is built in. Okay, so with this function we clean the workspace. After that we have defined checkout from Git. Now in this case we are cloning the Git repository which we want to work on, right? So this is the repository, right? Then after that we have SonarQube analysis. For this very purpose we will be using this function, that is with SonarQube env, where we have used Sonar server. Now Sonar server is something that we defined in the system section, where we provided the URL of our SonarQube, right? So we are using this over here, and with the help of the scanner tool we are going to execute this particular command so that it can perform SonarQube analysis. Okay, after this we have got OWASP dependency file scans. Okay, so in this what they are going to do is, it is going to check with these particular arguments, and the installation is something that we have again created in the tool section over here, right? So this is what we installed, right? So this is what we are using over here as a installation kit. Then after that we have dependency check publisher pattern. So for that purpose we have defined the report over here. So it will be giving us this particular report in an XML format. Now this other stage is trivy file scan. Okay, so in this case it is going to scan the file system. Okay, and if we have used the try, if it creates or generates any error, it will say, are you sure to proceed? Okay, if we proceed, then it is going to execute the following stages. Now in this case the other stage, that is Docker build image. Now once the security analysis is done, like SonarQube, then OWASP, that is dependency check, then the trivy file scan is done. Now if we are here, then we are ready to create an image, right? Build an image. So for that we are using Docker build command, right? Which we already I have explained about this API key already. Okay, then after that we have stage trivy, wherein we are scanning the image that we have created. Okay, again it will ask for the approval. Then after that we have got this last stage, that is Docker push, where we are going to tag this particular image and push it to this particular repository. Okay, and the tool name is Docker and the credential ID is Docker cred. Fine. So this was all about this pipeline. Now let's go and create a Jenkins pipeline. I will be copying this. Let's go to the dashboard, new item. Let's say Netflix pipeline. And one more thing I would like to mention it here, that this is just the CI part, that we are writing it or implementing it using Jenkins file. Okay, so Netflix pipeline is what we are going to create. Then I would say to keep only max 2 of the builds. And now over here I am going to paste my Jenkins file. You can also define it in the whatever repository itself. You can create a file that is Jenkins file, and over here we would be just then selecting this particular option where our Jenkins file or the pipeline script will be present in the repository itself. Okay, so this is done. Now let me save it and let us build and try to track it. Okay, so it is executing. Now it is asking me to proceed or abort. I will be going with proceed. Okay, the pipeline has executed successfully. Now let's go to the Docker and let us check the profile, and over here you can see that our image has been pushed to the Docker Hub repository. Okay, so this is it. Now this was all about our CI pipeline. Now we are ready to execute the CD part. Okay, now once we are done with this, we are going to now deploy the EKS cluster. So for that we have already written the code, right? So previously we cloned the repository, right? You can see over here we have defined 3 different folders over here: configuration files, EKS, as well as the Jenkins one. Now this one is done. Now we are going to go for EKS. Okay, let's go in the EKS repository. Okay, you will see these 3 files. Okay, and now okay, let's close this. I would like to open it in this now. Code dot. Okay, so the important thing that I need to check over here is that all the values for the VPCs and etc should be mentioned here already. So the region I need to change, it should be US East 1. Okay, and similarly it is going to change over here as well. Similarly for this as well, US East -1B. Fine. So region again over here needs to be US East 1, and the cluster name should be Netflix cluster, and the rest of the things will be as it is. Let me save this. For the VPC again, okay, that's fine. So yeah, so what we have done over here is we have defined the VPC. Okay, we have defined the provider over here and as well as the locals, just for considering it in the EKS cluster, and over here we have defined the EKS with all the properties mentioned. Okay, so yeah, now let's try to execute this code. Let me start with Terraform init. Initially it takes time to download all the plugins and modules. Okay, so initialization has been done. Now let's go with Terraform FMT, that is Terraform format. Then with Terraform validation. Okay, it's just a warning which can be ignored. Okay, then we have Terraform plan. Okay, so it is going to add 62 such resources. Okay, so there is key, MSKey and lot more things that are included within a EKS. Okay, now let's try to apply it. Terraform apply --auto--approve so that it won't ask us to approve anything. This might take a couple of minutes to execute. Okay, now all the resources have been created. Now let's go to our AWS console. Now over here you can see that this is the Netflix cluster that is being created, right? Now we need to deploy certain things on Kubernetes cluster, right? So how are we going to do it? We are going to first install the kubectl as well as Helm to interact with the cluster. So I will go into my server which I had created initially, and in here we are going to install kubectl as well as Helm. Okay, install kubectl on Amazon Linux. Let's go to the official website. kubectl. Yeah, so this one is the one. We're just copying it. Let's go to our instance and paste. Okay, so we have got the kubectl installed. Now after this we would be installing, let's check also, right? kubectl, yes, it's working fine. Now also we need to install Helm. Okay, go to Helm. Now let's try to extract it. Okay, tar -xv zf okay, now you will be having Linux AMD 64. Now this is something that we need to push onto the user local bin. Okay, mv, let's try with the root user, sudo mv linux onto the user local bin. Okay, now let's search for Helm. Is it working? Let me check what's wrong. ls /user/local/bin ls. Sorry, I think I had to pass only cd linux ls, only the Helm. Okay, so let's move linux we need to move only the content. Okay, now we have this. Now whatever is content of this particular linux, we need to move it to linux amd 64 to this. Okay, sudo. Now if you execute, come out of this, just go to the root repository and search for Helm. Now it should be giving you the desired result. Yes, so Helm as well as kubectl has been installed on it. Okay, now let's go over here, and for the EKS now we have got this EKS installed or created, right? Let me open it. EKS, just open it in other tab. Okay, we have got this cluster created for us, but now we want to execute certain things on it. So how are we able to do it? We are only able to do it with the help of this particular command, that is this one. Okay, just copy it. The name of the cluster is something that I need to mention it here. I will say Netflix-cluster. Okay, and the region of operation is US East 1. US East 1. Okay, I am going to copy this, or just, I don't need the double quotes, I think. Okay, I'll be just copying it onto this particular system. Okay, so for that we first also need to configure the AWS as well. So AWS configure, enter. Now for this you need to have the keys. I can create another one. Okay, just give me a sec. Or let me just go and open the IAM section. Okay, we have this key already, but I think I misplaced it. Now let's try to create another one for this very purpose. Netflix key, create access key. So now we have created it. The same thing we are going to paste it over here. Okay, same thing we are going to paste it here. The region is US East -1. Enter. Okay, so now we are ready. Okay, now we have done this. Now we can just execute this particular command. Okay, there was a spelling mistake. It's Netflix. Okay, so now it is added over here. Goal is to deploy Prometheus as well as Grafana on EKS. That is what is the foremost thing that we are going to do on the EKS cluster. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to consider this particular command. Okay, just copy this, go to the EC2 instance and paste it over here, enter. Okay, then we have got the Prometheus community thing. Let's go and paste it. So whatever commands I am running, I am not running on this instance, I am actually running on the cluster. Okay, so this will be added to the repository. Then we need to create a namespace for Prometheus, where we would be using or deploying everything related to Prometheus. Now then after that we are going to install Kubernetes stack. Okay, we are installing this particular Kubernetes stack in this particular namespace. Okay, let me execute it once again. Okay, kubectl get all -n Prometheus. So these many things have been installed with that particular command. Okay, so this is the alert manager, then Prometheus operated, but the only thing that is useful for us is one that is stable Grafana, and the other one is stable Kubernetes st Prometheus. Okay, so these two are the ones that we are actually going to use. Now let's try to, now there is service, you can see this service, right? Within the service section you can see this service. Now this service is of type cluster IP. We want to access this, right, using our browser. So if we want to access it, we need to change its type to load balancer. Okay, so how can we do that? By editing. So we are just going over here, trying to edit. Now what is it that we need to just change the type that you can see over here. Just insert. Oh my god, there's some problem with this. Let me just close this session. I think I'm not able to do it properly. Let me go to the instances, connect. Paste. Now for the editing purpose, enter, insert, over here we have the type as cluster IP. We just need to change it to load balancer. Escape, WQ, enter. Okay, now this thing is edited. Now if I try to execute this command, that is kubectl get svc -n Prometheus, you will be able to see that this particular service is being changed to load balancer and we have this thing to access. Okay, now we can edit the Grafana service as well, similar to that of the previous one. So let me just paste it over here and insert. Okay, again I will be changing the type. Okay, now both of them have been changed, and now if I again get SVC, I have got two services of type load balancer. Now the stable Grafana is also of type load balancer with this particular IP, external IP. Okay, now we can access it. Okay, let us try to access Prometheus first. Just copy it. Okay, so you can see Prometheus over here. Okay, let us also try to access Grafana. We can also access Grafana now. Okay, and now once we have set it up, so this is our Grafana dashboard, right? So there are multiple dashboards over here. You can say alert manager, HCD and everything. We can also create a new dashboard. Okay, import dashboard, and in here I can say 12740 and load. So this is specifically particular dashboard, and we can just import it, and you will see all the required whatever metrics are available for the Kubernetes, those we are able to view over here. Okay, so nothing has been used as of now, cluster CPU usage and all, nothing is used. So now what we are going to do is we are going to deploy our application using this particular ArgoCD, right? So for that we are going to run few commands. Okay, and then we'll check again the dashboard. Okay, so over here we are going to deploy ArgoCD on EKS. So how do we do that? Just create another namespace over here. Okay, we are creating another namespace, that is ArgoCD, and then again we will be adding this ArgoCD repo locally. Okay, now all of these resources will be installed, and then after this we have got this particular service, that is ArgoCD server, and we need to change it to a load balancer. So the same thing we are doing like we did previously, but we did manually, right? And over here within using command. Okay, then after that we will be able to see the load balancer, okay, by using this command. You can see this is the host name, right? We can access ArgoCD using this particular host name. Okay, enter. It might not work on Brave, but I believe it should be working on other browsers. So just give me a sec. Google Chrome. And here I will be pasting this particular load balancer. Okay, yeah, advanced, and now we will be able to access this ArgoCD dashboard. Okay, now the username would be admin and the password would be what we saw over here, right? So yeah, this is what it gave us. So this is what we need to copy and just paste in here and sign in. Cool. Now I want to create an application, so let's name it as Netflix. Okay, project name is default, manual or automatic, and replace. Okay, just leave it as it is. Then the repository URL will be the one that has got our configuration files. So this is the one where we have configuration files. Okay, so this is the repository. Just go over here, paste it right here. The path will be of configuration files again, this one, Control C. Okay, and paste it over here. Fine. Then after that, this is the cluster URL, the namespace is default. Okay, and create. Okay, over here you can see that it has started the deployment process. You can see the Netflix app, which is the service, is here. Then we have got these endpoints, the replica set as well as the pod running, and they are in the healthy state. And now we can just go and check the Grafana dashboard. Just kind of refresh it, and you can see that the network IO pressure over here. You can also watch multiple dashboards over here that are already created. So you can see the spike over here, right, because of the application controller. Then also there are multiple such dashboards with, like, if you go for namespace, then the current rate of bytes received transmitted is this. Okay, so the spike, you can see it over here in the core DNS, the transmit bandwidth, then the rate of received packets, and everything you will be able to view in this particular dashboard. So in this way, we have successfully deployed our application onto the Kubernetes cluster with the help of DevSecOps approach and using ArgoCD as well. Now over here you can see that we have successfully deployed our application, but we need to understand how these details are provided to the ArgoCD. So let's go to the manifest files and try to understand. So over here within the configuration files, we have our manifest files where we have defined deployment as well as service. Now within deployment, we have added the respective labels as well as metadata, and within the specifications you can see we have defined the replica as 1, and for the template, which is for the pod that would be running inside of the deployment, The specification is defined for the containers, and within the containers we have defined our image as this. Now this is the same image which we have pushed onto the Docker Hub. Since Docker Hub is public, we can, this particular deployment can access this image and thus run a container out of it, which will be running on pod. Okay, and the ports that are exposed is 3000, right? So this is for the deployment. Now within the service we have defined all the required metadata as well as labels, and within the specifications we have defined the ports on which it should be accessible, and then we have defined the type as load balancer. So because the type is load balancer, we can easily access it, right, using its external IP. So let's go to the instance and try to execute kubectl get all. Since we are deploying the changes on the default namespace, we would be getting everything that is deployed using this particular command. So over here, this is the pod. Over here, the service which we have created has been visible. Then we have got deployment over here, as well as the replica set. Okay. Now within the service you can see it's of type load balancer, and this is the external IP. Now with the help of this particular IP, we will be able to access Netflix application which we have deployed. So once I do that at port 3000, enter. Now over here you can see that we have deployed the Netflix application on EKS, and it is working fine with everything that it has got, right? So I hope this video was helpful to all of you. So hello guys, so it takes a lot of efforts for me to create such videos, so please make sure to like, share and subscribe if you found the content really useful. Thank you so much.